Hi, I'm Todd Jones, host of the podcast Pressbox Access. Here's a clip from my interview with Hal McCoy. Hal recalls Pete Rose's return to Cincinnati as a player-manager and the ultimate downfall from his gambling scandal. When he came back in '84, that city was just on fire with excitement, right? What was it like the night that Pete came back as a player-manager?
Oh, it was electric. The stands were filled, the place was going crazy, and then Pete hits a double, and the ball gets away from the center fielder, and he goes into third base with a head first slide, and that's when you know Pete Rose is back. You know the head first slide, which was always part of Pete, and his first time up, he does something like that, and everybody thought happy days are here again.
Yeah, because a year later, at age 44, on September 11th, 1985, he hits a single off Eric Shaw of the San Diego Padres. Hit 41-92 to break Ty Cobb's record. That game must stand out. Now, tell us what that night was like for everybody, especially for the writers in the press box.
Yeah, one thing that I'll never forget about the writers in the press box is, there's no cheering in the press box. You know, Jerry Holtzman, the famous baseball writer from Chicago, wrote a book called "No Cheering in the Press Box." That's kind of the golden rule. You
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
cheer
I
in the
must
press
point out
box,
there's no cheering in the press
right?
box, but there is jeering in the press
Much,
box.
much jeering and much grumbling and moaning and groaning. Exactly. But when Pete got 4192, it was amazing. All the writers in the press box stood up and applauded. I've never seen that before, and never seen it again. It was just absolutely amazing. And then everything on the field rose, pointing up to the sky. Said he saw his father up there, and Pete Jr. was there in a uniform and ran out on the field and gave his dad a hug. And Steve Garvey of the San Diego Padres, the first baseman, was standing up applauding in his glove. It was just an awesome thing. One of the highlights of my career to get to cover that game.
What did it mean to you? Because you had known Pete forever. Like you said, he would fill up your notebook. You have
Yeah,
covered that guy forever. What did that moment mean to you to
it
see
was
that
great
unfold?
because Pete was a great friend. A guy that you could talk to about anything at any time, and like I say, fill up your notebook with quotes, great quotes, very introspective. Uh, Street smarts. Knew everything you wanted to know about baseball. He could tell you, and to see him do that, yeah, that was very, very, very special.
But then in a Shakespearean turn, 4 years later, Pete's the manager of the Reds. He gets summoned to New York from spring training in 1989. What did you think that was all about? Pete's leaving to go to New York.
Well,
What's that?
that day, spring training had just begun, and Pete is standing on one of the fields, one of the infields, by himself. And it's early in the morning, and I walked over to him and started a conversation. He said, "I'm not going to be here for the next couple of days." And I said, "Why is that?" And he says, "Well, the commissioner wants me to come to New York. He wants to ask my opinion on a few things." And I
Mm.
thought, how strange is that? Why would the commissioner call a manager during spring training to New York to ask his opinion on a few things? Why couldn't he just do it by telephone? Well, it turns out that Pete was called to New York to ask about his gambling on baseball, and the rest is history. But I found that very strange. That that's what he said to me that day.
So all hell breaks loose that year in 1989, and you're pulling double duty because you're covering the team and the scandal. You're breaking stories about Pete's betting scandal. You're also trying to cover the team. What was 1989 like for you as a reporter?
That was the toughest year of my career because I love Pete so much and respected him so much, and to have this happen, and as you say, I had to cover the game, and I also had to. We had about five people doing investigative work on it from the paper, but I was the front guy, and I had to take all the questions to him every day. Uh, Ask him about the gambling allegations, and of course he denied, 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 and kept writing the stories and asking the questions. And then the day that he got banned from baseball, it became kill the messenger. Like Morgan, he did not speak to me for several years.
How many years?
Uh, let's see, he was banned in '89, so I would say about 2008. And that is an interesting story. My wife and I were in Las Vegas in 2008, and we were walking uh, past some shops at Caesar's Palace, and Pete was in one of the memorabilia shops signing autographs. And of course, for like $50 a pop or whatever. But anyway, uh, my wife, Nadine, sees him in there and says, "There's Pete Rose. Why don't you go in and say hello?" And I said, "Are you kidding me? You want to start a riot?" And she said, "You go in there and say hello." I said, "He hates my guts." So she shoved me in the door, and Pete saw me, and he jumped up and stuck out his hand, shook my hand, and there was a photographer there, and he had a picture taken of us together, and had it developed right away, put it in a leather case, and signed it to a great Hall of Famer from the hit king, Pete Rose. And I'm astounded to this day
Hmm.
that that's the way that we sort of made up. Uh,
Hmm.
uh, that was during the All Star break. And a couple of days later, the season resumed, and we go to New York. And I walk into the clubhouse in New York, and Doc Kremchek, the team doctor, who is a good friend of Pete, walks up to me and says, "Hey, I hear you saw Pete Rose in Las Vegas." And I said, "How in the hell do you know that? I haven't told anybody yet." And he said, "Well, Pete called me." And he said, "Hey, guess who stopped in to see me in Vegas?"
Hmm.
And Doc said, "Who?" And he said, "Hal McCoy." And I thought he hated my guts.
Oh, wow.
Used the same term that I had used to my wife. So, yeah, that's how we made up, and we talk quite often these days. I got his phone number in my cell phone, and he's willing to chat about anything at any time.
That's amazing that you both thought the same thing all
Yeah,
those years.
exactly,
I
exactly.
think maybe in the end, maybe Pete understood that you were doing your job and you were right.
I think he did. Once he finally admitted that he bet on baseball, I think he's tried to mend a whole lot of fences.